Hello everyone, it's Friday night and it is time for the Weekender once again. We have another packed show this week as we check out some properly metal miniatures for Battletech. Ben gets excited over Burrows and Badgers, who'd have thunk that one, and little brother Lloyd gets very excited for a Choo Choo Puff Puff in a board game. So sit back, relax, because your weekend starts here. Hello everybody and welcome to the Weekender. I'm joined this week by Ben and brother Lloyd.
Hello.
Hola.
Hello. And we're going to be walking you through a week's worth of hobby goodness. And
yes.
I hope you've been having a good week so far, guys. I've been having a Mea's Balls week.
Very good. Yeah, I've seen lots of very nice things popping up that I've been immediately going, well, that's going in the shopping bag soon. So it's been one of those weeks.
One of those weeks. Things
Yeah.
coming at you left and right.
Some of that we may talk about later in the show. So,
I had a terrible week.
Fascinating.
What?
I'm
Oh,
having
dear.
a terrible week.
All
Because
right, Debbie Downer. Jeez.
I was out of the country last week, and then they went and put bloody Saga on bloody pre-order.
Oh,
Yes.
And now I hear I'm recording this, and I've just realised I still haven't gone and checked to see if there's any left. Now I'm having a terrible week.
Shocking time. If it's any help, though, it's medieval, and I'm not doing that period, so you're okay.
This is the
true.
bestest period.
Yeah.
Bestest period.
Don't worry. I think Grippy Beast have got you covered for UK and Europe and stuff, so you should be fine.
You don't think it's going to be like every other time when the dice disappear for years on end and can never be
Well, I
found?
think-
Yeah,
I think
that'll
that
happen.
they're doing-
But there's only
Well, that will. Yeah.
there's only one dice type,
That's
and they're only
true.
doing it in two
Yeah.
colours.
Mhm.
And I have a box of blank dice, so it doesn't matter either way. Always have a box of blank dice for
But
Saga.
yeah, no, they're doing more print runs and stuff of the new book because apparently it was so popular. So yeah,
Not
should be
popular enough for me to do
crossed. Yeah,
That's how that one goes.
Yeah.
See how things pan out on the long run with that one.
Yeah. Medieval is Lloyd's Rome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I don't
My
have
Rome is
Romes.
Lloyd's Rome. Why has my Rome not been built yet?
Sure.
This is outrageous. Absolutely
Gotta
outrageous.
get it in there. at some
Yeah, well,
point.
you know,
Anyway,
don't, but I am.
so, yeah,
Anywho, we should probably kick off with the show proper.
yeah.
Before
probably.
We just start bullying Lloyd into building my Rome, which is just still sitting over there.
Never going to happen.
All still shrink wrapped and just
Never going to happen. That fly
Yeah.
up there is more interesting to me.
absolutely harsh. I'm going to bring some spiders around your house to remove that fly, and you won't have any excuse not to do it. Got a tiny little set of them and tiny little webs that I make. Go and build webs. Right, we're going to get into the indie of the week. And this week, I've picked a classic indie that
Ooh.
everybody should know. And I picked it off the back of the phrase I heard midweek, which was, there's no point in getting into Battletech because it's out of stock everywhere. And I heard that and I went, technically correct.
From an
But-
official standpoint, yes, I guess. but-
From an official, if you're buying the Catalyst plastics. However, there was a company many moons ago who started Battletech and they had a metal range and they're still running to this day. And
No.
if I want to go out and buy any Battletech thing, I can just go to Iron Wind Metals.
Ooh.
And the nice thing is, I'll just go in there and I just buy one and they'll send it to me. And I won't
And
have
it
to sit there-
arrives before
and
you
it
know
arrives.
it.
Yeah. And I don't have to go, oh, there was a Kickstarter 4.5 years ago where people have got it if they're in Swabiland, but nobody else has got it. You know, okay, grand. Anyway, as you can see, Ironwood Metals, which took up the Ral Partha standard and ran with it, doesn't just do Battletech.
I've just seen Crimson Skies. Oh my
Yes,
God.
you have. We could start with the Crimson Skies. We can start with Crimson Skies because it's relatively small. So they have the classic Battletech range, but they are adding to it. So we'll come back
Right.
to that in a moment. But they do Ral Partha, Fantasy, Historicals, Shadowrun, Crimson Skies, Vor. So anything that FASA made back in the day,
I see.
these guys have, which is always good. Crimson Skies is, of course, a 1930s pirate game.
Yeah.
Which came first, though? The tabletop game or the video game?
Tabletop game.
Video
Video
game.
game.
They did the Xbox game back in the day.
Yeah, they're all based off the board game. So the idea was an alternative 1930 where America had collapsed and the entire country was just filled with people in their weird, wacky flying machines going around the place in a bird dog auto gyro.
That's so cool.
Swooping in as some sort of terrible corsair comes to take your face off. Look, Lloyd, look, tiny pictures.
I'm over this.
I was going to do GZG because half of their picture links aren't even there yet. The site's been open for ages. But anyway, yeah. So if you've got the urge to do something in, I can't remember. I think these are 1/600th scale-ish, thereabouts.
Right. Okay.
Maybe a bit bigger. They have in here all the sorts of weird and wacky stuff. Those magnificent men in their flying machines. The Curtis Wright J2 Fury. Look at that. It's insane. Because this got a whole lease of life via the medium of WizKids did pre-paints at one stage as well.
I don't remember that. Wow.
Yeah. So it went board game, Xbox game, and then people went, oh, that's popular. We should make a tabletop game of that. We've got one. Matey boy, where do you think the video game came from? Oh, let's do pre-paints. WizKids did pre-paints away. Because I remember that. I do remember that. That's not just old man syndrome kicking in. That's not a fever dream. There were, but I don't think they were ever as extensive or as nice as these weird and wacky things with the bizarre looking shapes. I mean, it's all the weird stuff that people thought would be good in the 30s. They go, you know what? We need more duck boats and flying fortresses and
gyro style machines,
uni-wing things. I remember the first time I ever seen a gyrocopter or an auto gyro, whatever it was. It was in a Rupert Bear annual. There's a whole story where they had one landing on a castle. It was very peculiar. Yeah.
As his poor scarf gets caught in the rotors.
No, it didn't. Didn't get caught. Oh, I hate you so much. Anyway. Oh, there's somebody's painted one. I wonder if it's any bigger, Lloyd. Smaller, please. Smaller. Oh, slightly bigger. Oh, just been washed. Anyway.
Are they all metal? They look like they're metal. Yeah.
They are throughout the entire range. Everything you see in here is metal.
I should have guessed by the name. Iron Wing Metal, shouldn't I? Really?
Yes. It's like nature intended. I
just don't get it. I don't get these websites that try to show the miniatures. Oh, we'll try to show them at the actual scale they are tiny.
Oh, no, don't worry, because there are some pictures of models that I know are bigger, but they debigulate when you click on them. I think it's just the pictures.
It's like reverse psychology. You need to buy them so that you can actually... It's just like what happened with you and Drabant. The pictures were so bad, you bought the entire range so that you could re-photograph them so they could send them and put them back on their website. So
that was worse. I just kept all the photos to myself.
Well, you would
just lie amongst them.
You would do. I mean, why would you not?
It was literally that. It's like, I don't know what this is, but it's in the range. I'll buy it to find out.
Yeah. there are websites I go to where it lists things where it will just say helmet under arm standing ready with whatever weapon is in hand. And you don't get a picture, you just get a description. It's up to you to work it out, mate. For people who like adding chunk to their games, replace those little plastic tiddlywink tokens with actual hunking metal coins. They do a range of various types. The elf one looks distinctly like the old Irish punt. I'm just saying that. But if you want some coinage of all sorts of flavors, they're all in there, including some, I'm not going to say historical, because they're not. The Roman coins and the Viking coins are very much not. However, if you play something like Gags of Rome or whatever, you want to chuck in a Roman-esque coinage, and you don't know where to look yourself, or you can't get to a museum that sells them, then you can get those. Anyway,
I think I've seen Ironwind at conventions selling a lot of their coin stuff. I think it might have been a while back, but
it's entirely possible. Entirely possible. Yeah. So, BTech.
Of course, the main reason we're here, obviously. Yeah.
Obviously.
So that you can send all these links to John after the show.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yes.
BTech.
So, new classics are...
New classics?
They have two ranges of BattleTech miniatures in here. They have stuff that are the original models sculpts from 30 odd years ago, more. And then they've been adding to that since then. So the new classics are ones that have been CAD designed. That sort of thing. So they're still releasing models for BattleTech, even up to, I think, like this year. So if you're in like Flynn and looking for something and you're going, well, the original model was a bit chunky and hunky, maybe I'll go ahead and pick up the Catalyst ones instead, and then discover that they're out of stock on 6 out of 7 continents, only available through their Antarctica distribution, which is only does collection. So you've got to get to, there. Anyway, you can then come here and grab something that's more updated, but also a hunking piece of kit. I will say I like, look bigger, Lloyd, bigger.
With this picture, you're really teasing us.
Yeah, don't worry, they'll get small again. I do like that. There are various ways to filter this site.
Right.
If you know BattleTech. So you can see there all the specifications are in tonnage. And it gives you the technology and unit type and era. By the way, never play anything after 3050, because once the clan arrive, the game is broken. Play all your stuff earlier. For people who have not come across BattleTech and are wondering just how in depth it is, this is the eras of BattleTech. These are all playable periods. Now, I don't know what Catalyst goes like these days, because obviously they have Alpha Strike and stuff, which I find honestly pointless as a game. You may as well just play 40k, because you take away you're taking away the system management, you're taking away heat sinks and tonnage and blah, 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 and all the rest of facings. And at that point, you're just playing a skirmish game. But with mechs, you could put your mechs on the board and just play 40k or bolt action. They would be the same. But each of these eras is like any historical period that we would have. They are that in depth. The nations, the factions, the equipment they have, the accessibility of certain equipment for certain factions within periods changes. So you don't play something from the late Succession against something from the Age of War. It would be like World War II Germany blitzkrieging into the Punic Wars, things like that. Broadly speaking, you will find that some models, some chassis types exist throughout them, but there's a lot going on. So that's why I'm not going to go through the filtering system, because I don't know which ones to filter to bring up specific things, because I'm not
pretty
that
quiet
in-depth.
Between 2005 and 2050-70.
Yeah.
And then it goes batshit crazy.
Yeah. The battle mech arrives during that period, and that's a long, drawn-out, protracted affair. And then after that, people just start going. It's like armor in World War II. We start with little Czech tractors, and then it's how quickly can we make a mouse? The answer is about 4.5 years. And similarly for this, boom, it goes absolutely jonkers. Anyway, so they have a whole variety of things like your catapults and mad cats and locusts and warhammers and that sort of thing.
That's so nice.
All within the new mech range.
Yeah,
riflemen and archers.
So just to recap, these are the old mechs redone in CAD.
Yes, so these are new sculpts of old mechs.
So it allows them to get a little bit more definition and detail into the metal and stuff in the end. Yeah. Right.
If I go into the BattleTech, these are the original. Some of them are more recent than others, so some will be slightly better sculpted, refined. But then a lot of them are based on the illustrations from Facet from the books back in the day. So you're never going to see a massive iteration between an Atlas sculpted 35 years ago and an Atlas sculpted 6 months ago, because they're still based on the same line drawings and schematics of an Atlas. But I'm not going to spend a ton of time clicking into individual pictures, because the amount of mechs is substantial.
Well, yeah.
And this is just the mech side. And again, like I say, though, depending on what you're playing, You may find some of these are not suitable for your particular period. But I do think if you're going to play BattleTech, you go all in on BattleTech. You don't mess around with this Alpha Strike nonsense. You put a hex map on the table. You put your lance down. And if people haven't played, you're not playing with tons of figures. You should be playing with a lance, 4 models, and potentially you're splitting the lance between you and a friend, a couple of models each, because you go
because there's enough admin to do with.
Yeah, well, it's not a ton. All you're really doing is colouring in dots. Back in the day, it was pencil on photocopies. These days, you could laminate stuff and use overhead projector pens.
Lamination.
That's why I've got mine. But you can see a whole host of things, and your mechs are split by tonnage, so they go from light up to sort of super heavies, and you construct a lance based on a certain combined tonnage. So you're sitting there going, well, I can bring the big things, but if you don't have a mix of medium, light, and big in there, then you find that you can't really have all the ammo and equipment you need. And yes, it's great sticking all the guns on something, but then you realize that the heat that you're generating is more than, if you fire, you shut down.
Yeah.
You end up with the Excalibur from Babylon Crusade. We've got the best weapon in the galaxy, but every time we fire it, our engine switch off for 15 minutes. And we can't move. So we can't use that. But yeah, it's a substantial amount of mechage. And then on top of that, they also have all of the flyers and ground-based troops, because Mech Warrior, while it lent into the battle mechs, it kind of ignored tanks and stuff. And I know a lot of people have come into BattleTech via the Mech Warrior computer game route, but they're missing out on the fact that, yes, mechs were obviously huge and fun, but I mean, look at the head on that fella, the Galahad glass spider. But yeah, a tank battalion or whatever could still take lumps out of one, and if it was something chunky and meaty in the distance, stomping forward like a nice super heavy, then you'd have a much better chance of knocking it over.
Go to the combat vehicles section, because it's got a whole range of what you're talking about right now.
Oh, yes. So combat and our aerospace fight wars as well. And again, I think this is where the game shines. You do have a whole host of weird and wacky vehicles, some of which have a bigger basis in reality, shall we say, than others. Okay. Some are slightly more updated. I mean, that one with the wheels that are external to pivoting armatures rather than having an axle running between them. That's a very modern concept as far as design goes. Love it, Lloyd. Just get your face closer to the screen, mate. That's how you make it bigger.
Enhance.
But
it just gets worse as you get older.
Oh, it's so much fun. That's why I've got a big TV screen. But they've also got things like the Hetzer, but it's a Hetzer wheeled vehicle. It's like, how could we take a Hetzer tank from World War II and make it different? Yeah. Let's put wheels on it, but we'll keep the massive gun and the huge turtley shell.
What's that big long looking thing?
No, the long tom artillery.
A little bit like a land train. Is that what?
It's an artillery piece. I'd also like to point out the J. Edgar hover tank. J. Edgar hover. I see that.
It's
good. It's good times. Yeah, it's just a massive gun with several additional carriages containing ammunition for said massive gun.
All the shells,
Long tom, 95 tons. That's a beast. Inner sphere, though. Which means all of a sudden the filthy clans arrive and just stamp on the wall.
Yeah.
Just never play anything with clans.
I can't remember if it was a weekend or an XLBS. We talked with John about just how in-depth BattleTech was and how everyone thinks that Warhammer 40,000 is the deepest, most in-depth sci-fi game out there, and that's why people are drawn to it. And then someone says, hold my beer. And BattleTech steps in.
The thing that separates BattleTech from 40k lore-wise is that GW will rewrite, retcon, and change things on a regular basis. And essentially, there's not really much of... You can't put a timeline down for 40k, really, because it's like, stuff happened billions of years ago, and then like 30,000 years this happened, and then there's a gap of 10,000 years where we don't really know what was going on, and now we're here today, and these people have all done stuff in the last 150 years. So their entire timeline is like 150 years, and it moves, and there's no rhyme or reason to it, and you can't codify it. That the books that accompany these are like historical reference books, where you go in and you go, this happened, here's the maps of the area, you can see empires contracting, expanding, changing, being subsumed, whatever. And that's always been fixed, and they were always advancing the timeline, hence the clan wars. Shouldn't have gone that far. But anyway, that's the...
But they can
for me, that's the equivalent of the old world.
They can undo the clan wars by moving beyond them.
Well, yeah, and they have. I mean,
why does it say 99999? Is that something 9999?
That's.
If they just decided we've given up, that's it forever.
I've never been that far into it because, like I say, that's your cutoff point. You don't want to hit the clan invasion,
right? Okay.
So I don't know what's gone afterwards, but yes, you can push on beyond that, and
go to the
see
planes,
where things are going.
Go to the aeroplane.
One step ahead of you, son.
Also, I mean, the other thing is that BattleTech has also done the multi-format, medium thing that Games Workshop's stepping into now. You got all the video games, the, cartoon stuff, comics, all sorts of different things, haven't you? So it's not like you're wanting for ways to get inspired about it.
No.
So, yeah.
So yes, the only thing they do...
some things that you're wanting for to get inspired about it. One that comes to the top of my head would be big photos. That would be one.
Just move your face close to the screen.
It doesn't work.
It does work.
It doesn't generate resolution.
That's how it works. That's how your distance. Anyway,
the only thing around that mic, Lloyd.
The only thing I don't think they have in here is your infantry. So your little jump infantry and that sort of thing. But otherwise, you can get your...
As in, you can't buy them?
Yeah. I don't know how much people use infantry. They do sell hex bases. If you've got hex bases, you can get your hands on any 6mm sci-fi thing.
Guys.
So hammer slammers, whatever, go to GZG and pick up 6mm sci-fi infantry from that, or fly infantry, whatever it happens to be. And that's all you really need is bases of those, because they do get killed very quickly, which will harden them.
Yeah.
So that's the BattleTech stuff. There is other bits and pieces on there like Hackmaster and but you would get lost in there forever. I will say their links, ignore the top 3 and go straight to camo specs if you're interested in BattleTech.
Okay.
This is every color scheme, pretty much.
Wow.
Showing 6 of over 5,000 BattleTech miniature color schemes. So if you want to know how to paint specific things, like, let's pull up the factions. These are your factions. Obviously ignore anything with the word clan in front of it. But you can go in and go, right, I really want to run, I'm going to be doing the whatever age, 2367 Lyrian Commonwealth. What do I need? Bam, into there. And then there you go. Here's the unit, the regiments from within. They're in. So you go, I've always really liked the whoever they happen to be. The Donegal Guards, big red hand of Ulster. What? So it will at least give you a breakdown of color schemes. And then there's also tutorials, not for everything, but they do have 500 odd tutorials, specifically for the actual clans. So you can go in and you can filter by painter as well, because there's a ton of people have been working on it. In fact, these are the artists who have been working in the community to curate this. So he's only done 15. That's outrageous. Compared to Whack Rabbit with his 294.
I never really understood why John likes mech so much. I mean, he's into tanks. A mech is like a complete bastardization of a tank.
But it's a tank that walks.
It's a tank that can. It's a tank that can walk, and then
I could get behind that if they look like tanks that walked, but they look like people.
Yeah,
And people are the worst.
Oh, people are very much the worst. But imagine your tank walks forward and then picks up your opponent's tank, which is just a dull tank on treads, and then turns it upside down and puts it on its back like a turtle. Then your tank's spinning its wheels.
I hadn't thought of that. That is interesting.
Fine, I'm surprised more mechs don't do that.
Yeah,
they sneak up behind and flip it over.
Move.
Yep. Good luck with that, people. Good luck with that. But yeah, that's Ironwind Metals. Like I say, just the BattleTech version of it. If you are interested in the old Relpathus stuff, they have Relpathus Fantasy and Historics in there.
I know, because I'm looking at them.
True 28mm things. So
dragons.
There is a ton of fun to be had in there. Let's put it like that.
Don't know why we didn't look at this section, but oh well.
Because you can go to the Relpath site to look at that stuff.
Yeah, maybe we will sometime soon.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to tell the people out there who contemplated BattleTech, but then followed it up with the I can't get from Catalyst ... to just go elsewhere. Go to Ironwind, pick up metals. They're better than plastics because they're metal, and you'll get them. And then have fun with lances.
Yeah.
Right. Enough of that. Let's move on and take a look at some news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Okay, then, we're back for the news, and we're going to be kicking things off with something from Warcradle Studio and Armoured Clash, Ben.
Yeah, so the folks over at Warcradle have now released the full digital rules downloads for Armoured Clash. If you've been on the fence potentially about the game and you want to learn a little bit more about the rules, you can now go and download the full PDF of the 1.1 version of the rules. So there's a little bit of a tweak here and there for people wanting a little bit of errata and things, but otherwise it is the rules as they were presented in the physical books that you got in the starter sets and all that kind of good stuff, and the battle groups and everything else in between. And it has everything in there. So there's all the bits and pieces you'd need to learn how to play. There's all the lore. There's all the extra bits and pieces as well. Scenarios, army building stuff, everything like that. The only thing that you won't find in here is the Orbats, which will be available as part of the faction sections on the Armoured Clash website. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go and find the actual rules for individual units, they're all found on the Crown and Empire section of that website.
They're up as well, aren't they?
What, sorry?
The Orbats are online as well. They're up.
Yes, they are all there now. So you can go and find those, you can download them and make armies and have some fun, which is good. So
we had a video about that a couple of weeks ago, just mentioning Orbats. Oh, was your last unboxing that you did, Jerry, where you kind of went through to the box sets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The introductory sets and seeing what you can do with them. It's a relatively simple affair to put together an Armoured Clash army to begin with, because certain things are rigid. You are getting you're getting regiments or units, and they are static sizes and static lines. You're not varying weaponry or that sort of thing. But when you start getting into bigger bits and pieces, so some of the vehicles, artillery pieces, you can start playing around a bit more and sort of honing in on what way you want to build them. I'll be fascinated to see when we start to see more of the flyers, because it's mostly infantry based sort of rocketeers jetting around the place at the moment. So I can't see
next year.
I can't see a huge amount of people going heavy on anti-aircraft at the moment, or anti-aerial, I should say. But when the aircraft arrive, at that point, you're probably going to be
at that point, they're like, "Oh crap! I need to paint something. I don't have anything for this."
All of a sudden, those trikes with mortars on the back don't seem like quite the investment when they could have been just racking ack all over the place. Yeah. You're going, I really need to stop somebody dropping bombs on top of my massive battleship.
You see the trikes, just when you mention them. Can you magnetize the trikes to swap their weapon? Or are they built in a way you can't do that?
Well, technically, you could. But the magnets,
apart, I guess,
the magnet sizes you're going to be dealing with are going to be.
What about just on a rod then? Could I pin it and just shove it into a rod?
Oh, again, I wouldn't. Just now.
Just buy more.
You've got a point there. I forgot this is a 10mm game.
10mm. 28. Yeah. You'll also seen that Jerry showed off their little errata page. It's not a massive errata. It's a couple of clarifications and rules tweaks and things like that. So it's just a few bits and pieces that stuck through. As James M. Hewitt said, when he announced that these were available, he was like, it was all a cunning ploy. So if you notice these, well done, you get a cookie. But yes, so it's just a few little clarifications and stuff. But otherwise, that's the full new rules for Armoured Clash now available pretty much for everyone to dive into and pick up. Maybe you're someone who maybe has their hands on the miniatures, but their friend has the rulebook all the time or whatever. You're doing a little bit of a part share. Well, now you can sort of pick up the rules yourself, download them, and have a read, which is
what kind of cookie? Like an actual cookie?
No, an internet.
White
like
chocolate
tea.
and macadamia. Macadamia.
I like the idea that like map makers, rules writers put in deliberate mistakes to stop people copying their work. We know that you've copied us because all of a sudden this town has appeared that doesn't exist. Anyway.
Or the artist Seal, who used to put the wrong lyrics in his albums so that when you sung them, you'd be like, what the?
a fish from a rose? What? Yeah. And a flame? Very confused. Anywho. Right. Moving away from steampunk and into the world of classic fantasy film fun. Crooked Dice have announced more for the Harwood Hobbies range. So if you've got a hankering to sail the seven seas with Sinbad, you can do it. And why would you not want to do this? They have been adding to an already extensive range of 1960s and 70s stop motion animation goodness for a while.
Sinbad? Why does he look so kinky?
He always did.
This is Sinbad you're talking about.
You know, are you on the Brookside wiki? Are you looking at the wrong Sinbad? There's another cut for the kids. So yes, Sinbad is joined by Al-Qadar, the evil sorcerer. Good for all the villainous fun that you might expect from 7TV. And if you require any buckles to be swashed, you can do this thing. The range is...
He looks like he's trying to eat a giant Subway or something.
Yeah. No, he's doing the death metal thing that we learned from Stormpride. You've got to hold 2 orbs of angry energy. Whoa! That's how you do death metal. But yeah, so you can get your cultists, assassins, evil witches, maidens to be rescued, and terrible harpies to inflict themselves upon. Sinbad as well.
What's going on with that harpy? Where are her wings coming out of? On the ends of her arms.
Yeah. You need to go back and rewatch Sinbad, mate.
I haven't seen Sinbad in ages.
I used to watch it on a very small television in my grand's house.
And did you just get closer to the screen?
I did. Yeah. It was very effective.
It works. It does work. There's already
doesn't increase resolution.
There's already a range that these are being added to. So if you fancy looking for them, if you want your destroyer as well, they're in there also. I'm just thinking they've done some Clash of the Titans stuff for 7TV, and now we've got Sinbad. Are we just missing Jason and the Argonauts?
Oh, that'd be so good. I don't know, was any of that added as part of their latest Kickstarter? I don't think it was it? But it would be good to get like a proper Jason and the Argonauts. Oh,
yes. Good. Oh God, yes, including a big, massive Talos, or Talos, depending on how you pronounce that. Magnetized like little thing to pull the heel out.
Oh yeah, and then
all the
vape. I really like the stuff that we're seeing there. Obviously, you could use it for 7TV fantasy. Great set of rules, good for playing that sort of pulp, awesome style TV program on the tabletop. But I'd really like to see someone using this to do like their own version of Rangers of Shadow Deep. So you use that to do like a classic Sinbad style adventure.
Ooh. Rather
than it just being something tied to, sort of 7TV.
7TV's
really fun stuff with that.
Yeah.
Really cool. Especially on a campaign basis, because then you get to use things like Al-Qadar and stuff and make that like the big bad at the end of scenarios instead of like a White King or a Sorcerer or something. Do that. Or maybe even just use them for something like Frostgrave and take it in a different direction. Maybe use Ghost Archipelago as the focus of your rules, because that supplement's still out there and it's still viable. And then you could do the whole kind of like swinging through the jungles, fighting Snake Men and all that kind of thing.
I do like the idea of Rangers of Shadow Deep, though.
Yes. Yeah.
Just constantly having to Sinbad or Argonaut your way through stuff.
Is there a game for this Sinbad thing or just a range of minis?
7TV's the game.
Yeah.
Well, just play it with the 7TV.
So you just play it with 7TV.
Fantasy.
Yeah.
How
It
does
has
it
its
work,
own
though?
program
Because
guides and stuff. So
if I recall, Sinbad just kind of walked around kicking ass on his own. He didn't have like a gang with him.
It depends. So when you're playing 7TV, you play heroes against villains essentially. So you can make your own TV or movie. So you have your swashbuckling lead, but then you also have like secondary characters that they may have to rescue or help out, or it's like Indiana Jones. You think Indiana Jones, every film, he always had some accompanying friends, whether it's a date-eating monkey or a short round or whoever. So you have these sort of minor characters and major characters that are there for your sort of your leads. So you can kind of tweak and tailor your game to a certain extent depending on what you kind of looking to recreate on the tabletop. So maybe you're wanting to do more of a Goonies thing where everybody's a character and you've got tons of them, or you want to do your sort of your one-off ET with just Elliot and a few hangers on. All of anything you can conceive, anything you have seen on TV or movies,
you can do with 7TV. Yeah,
that is literally the point of the system. Yeah. So yeah, you can build it up in that regards. It's a cracking game. We should get more of that.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of getting more, see Steamforged have been reaching out and getting stuff off people and expanding.
They have. Yeah, it did. And I was very excited when I saw this one. So Steamforged Games, they do their Epic Encounters sets. So people will have seen these in the past. They are based around D&D 5th edition, although of course you could use them with any role-playing game, but they're primarily for use with 5e. And effectively they give you a encounter or a series of encounters in a box alongside an adventure that you play out using the core D&D rules. Now,
nice.
Steamforged have joined forces with the folks from Free League who make the Symbaroum role-playing game. And more importantly, Runes of Symbaroum, which is their 5e variant of the world of Symbaroum. So you can use it alongside the core D&D rules rather than the bespoke Symbaroum dark fantasy rules as they stand. And this means we've now got a whole host of very, very awesome looking new Symbaroum miniatures that are all tied into their dark fantasy world. So there's 2 different sets for you to dive in and pick up. The first of them is the Gem in the Barrow, and that's their first encounter set, which takes you through a full scenario. And this one comes with a bunch of player characters alongside a couple of other warbands that you're kind of vying against. So you get an elven warband, and I mean, oh my god, the Symbaroum elves just look so good. I just love the like face masks and all that kind of stuff. It's
you know
cool.
What they remind me of? Hellboy 2 Golden Army, the start where it's done like stop motion animation, and they're explaining why the elves had to kill all the humans.
Yes.
They're like that.
Yes. It is very much that. The set also comes with goblins as another one of the warbands, and also barbarians, as you can see, split between 3 different sets. And the whole focus of this particular adventure, the Gem in the Barrow, is that you are trying to all vie to get to that gem. So it's your player characters rushing into the barrow to try and get to it whilst having to compete with the other warbands. Or maybe you work together with them and stuff like that and see how it all goes, of course. It's a role-playing game. You can take different routes. But the entire of the Epic Encounter set leads you through from the very first scenario all the way to the end of that. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for a lot of people to actually start diving in and looking at this world. Because if you've not seen Symbaroum and Runes of Symbaroum and stuff like that, it's a phenomenally well-detailed, amazing dark fantasy world for you to dive into. There are full starter sets from Free League, and if you get those and combine them with this, you are on to have like a massive adventure when it comes to diving into this game. I will also say there's also a second set they've done as part of this one. So what they tend to do with the Epic Encounter sets is that you get one which is a more general set to sort of cover an entire adventure. And then there's often like a boss
set. An end boss, yeah.
An end boss. So in this case, we have the Corrupted Colossus. So inherently, the Colossus is not a evil creature, but it has been corrupted by something in the dark forests of Symbaroum. And so you have to then make a decision when you dive into the adventure. Do you decide to destroy this creature, or do you try to save it from the corruption? And that gives you another little addition to the Gem in the Barrow scenario to either tack on or use separately, depending on how you want to play your games. But I think this is a super cool idea from Steamforged and the Epic Encounters range. And I could see them joining forces with a lot of different creators doing lots of different 5e sets of rules and beyond to do fun little sets of miniatures for them in the future. I think that'd be really cool. So.
It's interesting to see that War Machine didn't suck all the oxygen out of the room on them. They're still doing stuff.
They're still doing cool stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's been their meat and potatoes for a few years now. The Epic Encounter sets, and they are. I've unboxed 2 or 3 of them now. And by 2 or 3, I mean 2 or 3 encounters. So the starter and then the boss.
And the boss. Yeah.
And the models are spanking gorgeous. And the boss models are
all plastic, single piece. So you just pop them out and they're ready to go.
Pre-colored as well. So if you're not a painter, you can just chuck them down. That Colossus is definitely going into your Force of Nature army as the Will Daddy.
Of course.
That is filth. But he's also probably on like 100 mil round base there because the colossal models are huge. There's a twin-headed T-Rex I looked at a while ago, and I almost jaw dropped when I seen the size of it in the box.
I should say there's also all the literature you need in the box, so you get the full encounter and a map. And you also get a map as well, so you can play all maps. Yeah, so you can play them out on the tabletop, alongside tokens and all that kind of thing as well. So they're really, really nice games in a box for the game, and as long as you have obviously the core rules for the game and the core rules for D&D. In the case of Ruins of Symbaroum, you can just dive in and start playing. But I've got loads of their books above, and they are absolutely gorgeous. It's definitely a role-playing game worth checking out if you want to do something that's not typical D&D. So,
I mean, even if they just buddy up with Free League for a while, Free League's catalogue of games is extensive and diverse.
The One Ring.
Yeah.
You could see some fun stuff on that side.
That's licensed, though, so licensing a license is probably not going to be a doer.
But I want them to make their own version of Lord of the Rings characters.
Yes, well, maybe, who knows, in the future, perhaps. I was going to say Vesson, but Vesson's already has minis. So.
Vesson, Tales from the Loop, all that kind of thing. Alien.
Dragonbane.
A Dragonbane?
Dragonbane has minis through My Mini Factory, but Vesson could be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Future's bright.
Wait a minute.
Bright.
I thought you didn't like miniatures in D&D.
Oh, no, I don't. I wouldn't use them for that. I just want the miniatures.
He's going to use these for his armies. He doesn't care about them.
It's the worst thing.
Keep doing that. We love them.
If I don't have RPG things to throw into the bin, then there's nothing in my recycling bin. So get the miniatures. The paper mats go in the toilet. Right. Speaking of miniatures that people love, oh, lordy boy, Victrix have just released the Islamic Armies. And this is ideal for somebody who wants to go on a crusade. There are 3 of us who would be well in there. So this is a new plastic set of medieval...
Look at the size of the picture. I got excited there.
Hang on a minute. I can fix this for you. Better?
No! You complete nutter.
Delightful.
It's like going into the Wayback Machine and looking at an old Yahoo site when you do that.
It's good. It's good times. So Victrix multi-part plastic kits. This bag set, it's not a box, it's a bag.
You can even click that. It'll get bigger.
I'm sure it will, but I'm about to move away from that, so don't worry about it. Will include enough to make 48 miniatures in multi-part plastic that will cover everything from the sort of 7th, 8th century up to the 12th to 13th. So not just your crusading eras, but pre-crusades when they were fighting amongst themselves, where there was a lot of warfare within the Islamic kingdoms beforehand, as various caliphates were attempting to push themselves to the fore. So,
is there any reason to be clobbering these guys with rust?
Not if I could possibly avoid it, no.
But if I got the rust done up properly, could I be using them as Renegade Guard and then going down and clobbering these guys?
Would you could do, sure. Why not?
Clobber these boys?
I mean,
I think that
I'm not going to stop you. Nobody's going to stop you. Theoretically, you can play within universes, so you could use your rust from Viking Age and throw up against the Age of the Crusades. They're not balanced for tournament play, but they do say if you fancy playing fun games, you may find that certain battle boards are absolute filth in certain universes.
I never do that though. I just drop the battle board and just map them to another battle board that's in the Age.
There you go.
That seems like more hassle than it's worth. But you do you. As you can see, there are a ton of options. So you can make them as sort of sword and board, spear, or bow armed. There may even be the javelin option for levies. They even have standards, musicians, and champions. I believe the standard loadout will contain a sort of a command sprue as well as a regular.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So, like their other boxes or bag sets, you generally find that you get 4 of the warrior sprue and then 2 of the command sprue. Although there are options therein. So this guy, for example, you only want 1 musician probably, unless you're playing something like Hail Caesar or that sort of style game where you're making units of 24. So in which case you might want to make 2 units out of a box. You have that option. Or alternatively, you just go, I'll make 1, and then the other guys just get regular weapons.
Yeah. His head's 2 pieces, face into hair.
Yes. I'll let you know how that goes when I assemble them next week.
And then send the rest to Lloyd, right? Yeah. So.
More faces into hair.
Yeah.
There's an insane amount of heads in this box, by the way. Like that is one of the things they've gone overboard with, but yeah. Well,
you generally get 13 on average. Yeah. And this time around we've got 5, 10, 14, 17. You got 4 more heads than the usual.
There you go. So it's not too bad.
So a bit more variation in there, especially if you're wanting to lean into certain things. So you want to make your warriors more distinct from levies. Well, warriors get actual helmets or hats, and levies get little soft tops or nothing at all.
Yeah.
And then that way you can easily look down and go, these are the people I'm going to push to the front and get butchered horribly.
Really good for skirmish games as well, where you want to try and make slightly more individual characters and you don't want too many repeats and stuff. So
I love the way most of these heads looked so shocked.
Well, you'd be shocked if somebody just scalped you. If your hair was floating 1.5 feet above your head, you too would have a look of bemusement upon your face. But yeah, this is obviously a nice counterpart to the Normans / Crusader models that they make. So if you want to do early Crusades or some of the latter, these are going to be in like Flynn. They have just teased the Islamic cavalry, if memory serves.
Showed that off a couple of weeks ago, really highly detailed kit.
So, and again, the same with the Norman / medieval knights. The components are compatible, so you may want to, use some of the extra heads or arms or whatever to mix and match between them to add a bit more diversity to your builds. But yeah, a lot going on from Victrix, as always.
It's rocking it.
Yeah, they are.
They really are. Yeah.
Busting it out of the park. Right. Sticking with historics, but this time we're going to take a look at some World War II, Ben.
So yeah, Warlord have been offering a little bit of a look inside the new Armies of Germany book that's going to be coming in January next year. This is going to be the first of the Armies of series of books that's coming out. Obviously, it was the Germans. Nice way to get things started. A lot of people playing the Germans, obviously. And they kind of highlighted 3 particular sort of unit profiles that are going to be included that will kind of take your army in sort of different directions. So the first of these is the Spartruppen that you see here. I'm sure some dancer is going to correct my pronunciation at some point on all of these. But this is a set of kind of scouts that you can add into your games. They were often used to kind of like lay the groundwork for advancing forces and sort of keep an eye out for enemies as well. And so that's where they get things like the infiltrator rules and the use of the bicycles and stuff. But interestingly, they've kind of tweaked this so you can take them as a veteran set at veteran level, obviously, and you can also include more men in the unit. But if you keep it at a sort of small 4-man unit, you get access to things like the bicycles and the infiltrator rules, either or, which will allow you to sneak around the enemy formations and get into places where you can take out things like snipers and spotters and all that kind of good stuff. So they've really tried to play with it to kind of give you this, obviously the idea of just throw loads of additional riflemen on the tabletop and sort of bulk it out that way, throwing submachine guns and that kind of thing. But if you want to get access to the actual special rules of these guys and make more use of them in sort of objective-based scenarios and that kind of thing, and for hunting down smaller units on the tabletop, keep it to a smaller unit size and then use them with the addition of the bicycles to give them extra movement and stuff like that, or the infiltrator rules to kind of have them popping up different places on the battlefield as well. And then use that to kind of get the drop on your enemies, which I thought was a really nice little touch there. Kind of take things in a different direction. We also got to see something a little bit beefier as well. So the Panther term was the massive entrenched tank, shall we say, that starts the game immobilized, if you hadn't already guessed. But if you're looking to build yourself a fairly hefty gun emplacement that rocks a massive gun.
You know, you can zoom out there, Jay, so we can actually
I
see
do.
the photo.
But I'm just here.
This is too big even for me.
I'm just here for that.
Yeah.
I don't care about these squishy people around them.
Yeah, so if you're looking to rock the 75mm gun that goes on the back of one of these things, this effectively gives you the addition of a super heavy anti-tank gun with the MMG. But obviously the downside comes from the fact that this has to be placed down immediately at the start of the game, and then it's not going to move anywhere from that point. And it also counts as inexperience as well. So you're going to get the trade-off of the inexperience and the no movement for a stonkingly good gun emplacement.
Can anybody actually bring themselves to model that, though? Can anybody actually bring themselves to cut most of the tank away?
Well, you get that as a kit.
Yeah.
So that comes like that? That's not just a kit like that. Yeah, chopped.
No. Yeah.
But in answer to your question, yes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the plastic kits will come
separate from the base.
Separate from the base, so you could magnetize the upper hull onto the lower hull, so you can use it as a tank and then just lift it off and set it onto a piece of terrain that you've made with brickwork or mud or whatever, and just have it sort of set in.
Yeah, so obviously a really good option for those people who are
bricks red, though.
But that's what they would have been.
No, but the cobble streets are all grey in Europe.
Yeah, but they didn't pull up the cobbles to do it. Yeah. Well, sometimes
but it's lying in the middle of the street.
Well,
they used the collapsed buildings to build the things around them. But so yeah, obviously very good if you're doing kind of like the defense of Berlin and all that kind of thing, and you try to like entrench yourself in defensive positions. The other thing that's really nice about this is that you'll see that it has the engineering selection rule in there, so you can add this in as a vehicle as part of an engineering platoon. And it doesn't take up the space that you could potentially then use for adding in things like vehicles and additional tanks. So you can have the Panther term built into your list and then throw in some additional tanks if you want to take it that way. So some interesting sort of variants in the way that you can build your armies and sort of tailor them to particular theatres as well. They do point out that if you do this in a scenario where the units don't start on the table, then you just have to put your Panther terms at the edge of your deployment, and then well, there we go. So
you know what's brutal about that? If you go back to the picture, Jerry, look at that gun.
Yes.
Scroll over. It's right at crotch height. Look at that guy standing in front of
it. Well, this then becomes a defensive tactic as well. When people get close enough, you just spin your turret.
Just whack them in the nuts.
Like that thing you always see where the kids are trying to jump over the spinning foam rod. Yeah. It's exactly the same. That's how they defended themselves.
It comes from it's the Robot Wars tactics.
Yes.
Yeah. Vertical spinner. Horizontal spinner. As well as that, so obviously that's told us taking things in two different directions. So you've got the kind of scouts and things that you might be using as kind of a blitzkrieg force. You've got the Panther term there, which would be really interesting for setting up defensive German armies during sort of like the late stages of the war. The other thing they've done is they've added in kind of like some units that are good for including sort of civilian elements, but also kind of what if stuff as well, if you want to take it that route. So you've got the BUF squads or the 5th columnists that you can add into your armies. And this effectively gives you a selection of spies, saboteurs, collaborators that are essentially work as civilians in addition to your German army. And they are fairly bad in effect. They're inexperienced, but it's a very cheap way of giving yourself things like obviously demo charges, anti-tank and all that kind of thing. They don't benefit from the core rules of your German army. So when you're playing them on the tabletop, because they effectively work as civilians, they work as you see there as independent operatives. But it's an interesting cheap way for you to throw in a bunch of civilians and again play out slightly more thematic style armies on the tabletop, and gives you a great opportunity for you to run down city streets, away from the main force, trying to hunt down snipers and all that kind of thing, blow up tanks from cover, maybe destroy some buildings and defenses at the same time as well, with some of the other options they have. Very good if you want to try and do stuff in occupied territory. So maybe you want to do things in Paris during that particular occupation, you could throw some of these into the mix. If you want to go down the route of doing if you want to go down the route of doing something a little bit more
Operation Sea Line.
Operation Sea Line. So have them, as you can see there, running around the streets of Blighty with not baseball bats, with cricket bats and everything ready, trying to stop Stallard from selling his toys, as you can see.
Nobody's managed to do that too.
That's very true. So yeah, a really nice little set there that allows you to then take things in a different thematic route for your German armies. And this is obviously just the beginning of what they're trying to put together for the Armies of Germany book, which will have even more stuff in there as we move towards the release in January. And Warlord have assured me that there are going to be even more previews of what's coming up as well, so you can start to think about what kind of armies you want to build. You don't just have to stick to the Battles of the Bulge in your winter and all that kind of thing. You can take things in different directions.
It's nice to see them including things like fifth columnists / collaborators, BUF, whatever it happens to be, because obviously we only seen those in campaign books previously.
Very true.
So actually having them in the core army book is good, especially if people want to be playing some of those campaigns and they're having to wait to see whether or not the books will get re-released in years' time, probably. So it stops you having to stall the jets on something you might want to be playing in the meantime. So that's all very cool. I like it a lot. Something else I like: FREAKZ. Love FREAKZ. Can't get enough of FREAKZ. And I'm not just talking about the Bill S. Preston Esquire film, which is obviously great, but there is a new game from Osprey called FREAKZ. And this is the mutant murder machines. It is the far, far future. The apocalyptic world has become a mutated radioactive wasteland filled with terrible, terrible things. And Michael Whelan, or Wheels, as he's known on his YouTube channel, has decided to explore this world. So it is a skirmish game set in an apocalyptic wasteland that combines a whole host of interesting facets, shall we say, as you attempt to become your very own warlord and carve out your own part of the post-apocalyptic wasteland. So the idea behind FREAKZ is these delightful people, the freaks in question. And by the way, throughout the book, anytime you see an S, you just replace it with a Z.
Yes.
It's just how these things go. Yeah. So the freaks are essentially dungers who wander around looking for these arco-pulsing things that then they graft into their own bodies. So they're a mixture of tech / magical atomic wasteland. And you have like a Necromunda style campaign game where your little freaks, as they bingle around the place, are grabbing these things and sticking them in, but with every time they put them in, they get more power. And you do that via the nature of a deck of cards. So there are 4 apocalyptic, let's call them gods, for want of a better word, that are attempting to rule the world. So you theme your warband around one of these, and they each have a suit from a deck of cards. And when you find one of these upgrades, you have to try and subdue it when you attach it to yourself. Otherwise, it will just take over or explode your face. However, the more of these you put in, the more powerful you become, and the more likely you are to want to pick more up. But there is a cap, and you have to try and resist, because I'm going to lose all humanity and become a giant, gribbly, wandering monster that will return to hunt everybody on the tabletop in the future, not just you and your friends, but others who you happen to be fighting against. So you've got very compact warbands, a campaign system built into it as well. The system itself is really simple, where you're just comparing dice results in most cases. It does say at the start you only need, I think, like 3d6.
Yeah.
And then when you read the book, you discover you actually also need a d10 and a deck of cards as well. So I will say that the what you need to play this game list at the start isn't exhaustive, shall we say. But it does mention later on, well, it doesn't mention it just because you draw a card, you're going, oh, so I need a deck of cards. But the game itself is written very tongue-in-cheek. It's seems like an awful lot of fun with the idea that you can absorb these powers, and later on, they almost have a magnetic quality. So even if you're passing by or stopping near one, you may find that it attempts to creep towards you like a piece of liver in the fridge looking for your milk. Just slowly crawl into you, and then you become all freaked out, which is fascinating. The artwork in it, by the way, is absolutely darling.
Dust, yeah.
And this, at the back of the book, is also a set of standees that they're using in that little battle report. So you can use any models you want, because it's a game and therefore nobody can stop you. But
bash your way to victory. Yeah,
you can just go ahead and play with standees. So if you've not got a range of freaky post-apocalyptic things with gribbly tentacles and all sorts coming on, then you can divest yourself of that. And it's similar to things like Doomed and Frostgrave and Stargrave, where the real meat and potatoes in the game lie in the campaign system, in running your gang through. Hopefully everybody will survive. He's not going to survive, as all sorts of threats of wandering monsters and other gangs come across you in the wasteland.
And this is new. It's not based on a previous IP, because when I was looking at it, I was going, I better go and check that. But no, it's all new. It just looks appropriated from the 80s. That's all. Because I was looking to see, is this an 80s comic or something at some point? Nope.
No, it's just that art style is absolutely to die for. It's a fun little book. I have an unbooking of it done, which will be coming out soon. So you'll be able to see it in a bit more detail. Yeah, it's like an unboxing, but I've got no box.
You should have a special book box that you open every time you do an unboxing.
That'd be nice. Yeah. Or even just a piece of vellum that I wrapped over, and I just unwrap it, exposing the book to nature and the elements, and then I talk all about
smell.
it. But it's a really nice hardback book. Really easy set of rules to get together, and a nice campaign system to boot. And if you fancy doing something a bit different, or like I say, even if you just fancy playing around and using the standees, the last chunk of the book contains a variety of wandering monsters and gribblies and models.
So they have no miniatures for this then?
No. Like every Osprey game, they don't do any miniatures.
So it's like run off and get a load of Nurgle things and cut them up and stick them to other minis.
Yeah. You do Nurgle, or if you've got that Fallout game, Nuclear World or Wasteland Warfare or whatever, you can grab those. They would work as well. If you've got anything, Mad Max.
The Stargrave kits with the aliens and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All the gribbly bits you can download from Wargames Atlantic on
the digital.
On Atlantic Digital. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. It's a big Galvy bucket load of stuff out there if people go hunting for it. And it's definitely worth a look at it, simply for the ease of accessibility. And I love the fact that as you get more powerful, the things are just going to go sideways for you.
You just explode,
you explode or turn into a huge wandering shoggoth. And then you go, well, I guess we've got to find a new leader for my warband.
That's it. You know you're in trouble when a little dude crawls out of your belly. What? Where did you come from? Open your mind to me.
I quite, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about it, obviously we've got the unbooking coming up, but Wheels has got that battle report that you can go and check out. And then I think there's also like he kind of explains his philosophy of the game over on his YouTube channel as well. So you can go and check that out.
It's worth having a shifty at.
Yeah.
Right. From me to thee, Ben.
Yes,
I'm just going to go, and I haven't smoked in years, but smoke them if you've got them. So I imagine the news from Oathsworn is going to be substantial.
It's going to be hairy.
It definitely is. So next year, new edition of Burrows and Badges is going to be on the way. Should be releasing from the folks at Osprey once again, and it's going to be probably appearing. I'm thinking probably around Salute time. That seems like a good idea for them to kind of aim for. But to support this, Michael from Oathsworn has been sculpting up 2 entirely new starter warbands that are going to be part of a proper starter set that you can pick up. So if you want to dive into the game for the first time, you've never played it before, or like me, you just want some nice new Burrows and Badges miniatures, you'll be able to pick up 2 full warbands for the Royalists and the Rogues, and they are going to be completely ready to play effectively out of the boxes. Obviously you've got to paint them, but you'll have all of the rules and all the warband building done. You simply just dive in, start playing with them, and away you go. One of the nice things about what they've done for this is that because this is a campaign game, Burrows and Badgers, and you tend to end up buying lots of equipment and things for your different characters, everything you see on the miniatures has been factored into their rules. So everything is WYSIWYG. So that is a squirrel mage with a magical pouch and a talisman. And any of the guys with heavy armor are heavy armor with a double-handed weapon, or light armor with a double-handed axe and all that kind of thing. So everything has been catered for immediately. So once you get this pack, you can start playing without having to do any of the busy work behind the scenes. One of the nice things about one of the things that I thought was just beyond comprehension is, that first miniature we were looking at, that Otter Knight.
The Otter Knight, yes.
That was the second miniature that Michael sculpted for that particular character, because he sculpted the first one, realized he'd missed the rosette thing on the front, the little stamp. So instead of just recalling the miniature and adding it and then sending it back again, he just sculpted an entirely new miniature. Just for that one detail. And then
he'd already posted it away?
Yeah, it had already gone off to the molders. And so that's now going to come out as just a separate miniature that just gets added to the range later on. But the other thing that I really like is that all the starter warbands they cover all the different bases for the kind of stuff that you might see popping up as part of a campaign. This isn't all of them, by the way. But so you're going to have things in like flying creatures, which you wouldn't necessarily think about adding into a starter warband. You're going to have the magic users, the priests, heavy armor, different weapon types, lots of different styles of creature for you to pick from. So mice and rabbits and otters and all that kind of thing. So they've really kind of stretched out the offerings that you're going to get as part of the starter set. So when you dive in, you can basically learn all the rules out of that one pack, which I think is a really nice way of doing things. I've also got to say, and I say this every single time that I talk about Burrows and Badgers, but the miniatures are genuinely some of the best ones out there, especially if you're someone coming into a game and you're new to painting, because they're all one-piece metals or resins for the most part, apart from some of the larger miniatures, like the Big Bear and stuff like that. But the definition that you get in the miniatures, so what you're seeing here in the greens translates over perfectly into the metals. Everything is so clearly defined that it's just a really nice kind of like paint by numbers style affair with these miniatures. They're very quick and easy to bring together. And because you're not having to worry about flesh per se, fur is one of the easiest things to make look really, really good with dry brushing and shading and stuff like that, washes and stuff. And so you can make some really nice looking warbands very, very quickly. So I think it's a very inviting game, if I say so myself, for newcomers who want to dive in and start playing the game. I know it's one of the things that's drawn Shay and John towards it in the past as well. So
this makes me think we need to have like a worst comment of the week section on this show. Go and look at the comments on that. Go and look at them. Bring them up. I'm telling you.
What's wrong with the comments on that? I didn't see that. What?
Someone's frying my brain with the crappiest of jokes. That's my job.
Is it? I haven't even scrolled down yet. Is it some geezer?
No, it's not.
It's Grant and Van Man.
What did he say? What did he say there, Jerry?
He said, "That owl is a real hoot."
Oh my brain.
I mean, that's not the worst comment by a country mile.
Very good.
We've seen worse. We've seen much worse.
But yeah, so all of these miniatures will be coming out next year, probably around April time, I think, alongside the new edition of the rules, which are looking like a really nice kind of like tightening of the current rule set as it stands. If you want to watch a little bit of Burrows and Badgers, me and Shay played a game earlier in the year, which you can go and check out over on Tabletop. Go and give that a watch. And yeah, hopefully next year I'll be able to maybe bring the game to the tabletop again, potentially. We'll see. Maybe with those 2 starter warbands might be a good idea.
Yes.
Maybe. Yeah.
A whole new edition. Why not? Why not indeed?
Right, enough Burrows and Badgers. Get on to the Murph.
So yes, as well as Burrows and Badgers, one of my other great loves in life is Middle-earth. And so Middle-earth got a brand new preview that I think you quite like, at least one of the miniatures from this set, Lloyd, from your liking it on Facebook.
I like all these miniatures.
Well, there you go. So War of the Rohirrim is coming very, very soon. And in the art books and things for that, we have seen the likes of a snow troll and some orcs and things popping up. And so in the latest preview, they showed off a new box set that will contain all 3 of these miniatures in one. So the big lead miniature is the snow troll, which is based off a line from Helm's story where he stalked through the winter like a snow troll. So they've gone snow troll and added one into the mix.
He wouldn't be out of place in the, what is it? The Krampus parade? What is
Krampus.
it they have?
He's very Krampus. He has got Krampus vibes. Yes, that's true.
He's got the most well-defined oval nipple I've ever seen in my life.
He really does. The painting on the nipple is beyond perfection.
But I've often heard the phrase hard like diamonds.
There you go.
I've never seen one that actually was a diamond.
Yeah. But I mean, a stunning piece of forged old resin. I think you'll agree. Really nice work on that to kind of give the frost feel to the back of the troll, but then also working it in with the kind of aesthetic you see from the old cave trolls and stuff from the rest of the Middle-earth range. Obviously has a little bit more of that kind of anime vibe sort of fitting in with that aesthetic, but I don't think it's massively out of place with the stuff that they've already seen for the game.
I think his nips are perfect. Remember, he's a snow troll. He's in the cold. Yeah. I don't know about you, but my nips go well diamondy when I'm in the cold.
I've never had any reflections off them.
Can we just isolate that clip and play it on?
Our first ever TikTok video.
So the snow troll is actually almost summoned to the tabletop by the two orcs, the two enterprising orcs. So Shank and Rot are the two orcs that have been added to the mix. So War of the Rohirrim is not just going to be a fight between the Rohirrim factions and the Dunlendings and stuff. There's also going to be some orcs in the mix as well. And these scavengers are trying to make the best of things as the war is brewing between the factions, pilfering as much as they can and trying to steal treasures so that they can please their dark master in Mordor. And so you get the two of these that are effectively within three as a whole become like their own kind of warband called the Besiegers of the Hornburg. So you'll be able to add them into your armies and have some fun with those. Each come with their own special rules and that kind of thing. They haven't divulged any of that just yet, but from what we've seen of previous War of the Rohirrim previews, everything's very thematically linked to them as characters in the movie and sort of like how they would act. So they're hopefully going to come with some fun little special rules and things there. I would imagine that Shank is going to be maybe the more coherent of the two, because Rob looks like a little bit of a dullard, but we'll see how it all plays out, I guess, on the tabletop. But some really nice stuff there.
He's just standing there wondering, why does a troll need big nipples?
Exactly, that's probably why. Yeah.
Does a troll breastfeed?
I'd imagine so.
Sure. Yes, that's now in the Tolkien legendarium.
They must be warm-blooded then.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm trying to get that out of my head now. But anyway,
you're welcome.
What I quite like about this is that I'm kind of hoping that the introduction of these new orc characters alongside things like the Snow Troll might then herald them looking to redo something like the plastic sets for the orcs potentially in the future, because they're doing the redo of the Warriors of Rohan, which we looked at a couple of weeks ago now, but hopefully we'll see a reinvention of the range alongside those as well, which would be quite nice to see. But yeah, really nice stuff coming up for Middle-earth Strategy Battle Game. There have been leaks online of the new rulebook and everything, so it can't be that far away. I'd imagine it's landed in some factory somewhere and someone's decided to take pictures on their phone.
You think it's this side of Christmas or after Christmas?
The film's coming out December 13th, so I would imagine the pre-orders probably come out around that.
I didn't realize the film was that close.
Yeah. So I probably imagine the game, the new start set, etc., will come out probably around then for pre-order, and then maybe deliver in the new year. Tends to be the way they do these things, but we'll see. So yeah, not too far away for the new edition and everything like that. We'll see how annoyed and or happy our people are in a couple of months. So yeah,
when they've watched the film and decided whether they're going to bother or not.
Well, yeah, that's true as well. Yeah. Well, and also because a lot of miniatures got removed from sale for Middle-earth, so a lot of people are quite angry at the moment, but whatever. So.
Isn't that to bring them back with nice, juicy ones in the future, though?
I think that's probably going to be the case. So, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But, of course, Games Workshop, nobody tells me nothing, as Bill Bailey would say.
My problem with Middle-earth is they had all these sets, and I was looking, I'm going, oh, it's real nice, but they were bloody expensive.
The battle hosts are fairly cheap nowadays, comparatively. The ones that you get for, that give you a good starting force for Minas Tirith or Mordor and things. But
is that because you're comparing them to the price of, like, Victrix? Where you're going,
well, that's true.
There's 48 to 60 models in a bag for hit me farthing.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of the groups that I've wandered around for Middle-earth, they just take historical miniatures. They do. That's my warband.
Also,
well, you had to for a long time.
There are so many people who do their own unique 3D printable elements that you can use. Like Medbury, for example. We've talked about them in the past. They do fantastic historical miniatures anyway. But they also do a stunning range of fantasy miniatures that would be really good for Middle-earth, and they're not going to be stopping anytime soon. No. So if you're somebody who's looking for other miniatures to use in Middle-earth, there are plenty out there. Heck, if you want to go down the plastic route, just buy the Oathmark stuff. It is inherently Tolkien-esque, so just buy that and use that to build your armies. There you go. So perfect for the Silmarillion, if nothing else. So, yeah.
Ooh, all about the Cimmerils these days, aren't we?
Yeah. Oh, Silmarils.
You could buy into Hobby's range as well. What was it called again?
Yep.
Barnes War Fantasy.
Fantasy Skirmish. Yes.
I think that's all. It wasn't anything.
Nothing too fancy.
Yeah. It didn't have a clever name that nobody's going to remember.
No. Should have called it Mirth.
For years we used to play Middle-earth role playing, and its acronym was MERP.
Now it's
you would just go, we're going to play MERP. No, it's not. It'll always be MERP. Nice red covered book. Right. Let's go over to the studio and see what Warren and Justin have been up to for TerrainFest.
Morning. What are you working on?
Morning. I am working on the sub-assemblies of the Eastern table.
Mm-hmm.
So
continuing the tale of two tables.
Yes, so continuing the tale of two tables. After we did the layout last time round, I was able to, rethink some of the bits and pieces that I needed to do. I don't believe I'm fully there yet. I'm sure there's bits I forgot about, but I decided to print out a few extra pieces. And this morning now, what I'm doing is sub-assembling, because I don't want it to be hundreds and hundreds of little bits. But at the same time, I want it to be very manageable and storable.
So how big a section of, say, wall are you hoping to put together?
Thinking, let me grab these bits because they're dry. So I'm thinking wall sections in sets of 3. So
all three glued together.
Square, circle, square, and then potentially one of these jobbies on there as well, possibly.
Well, the question is, how modular do you want to make it? And how much of a jigsaw do you want it to be when you're putting it together, that each part has to go in a certain spot?
That's the balance, isn't it? That is the balance. These days, I just want my tables to go together pretty quick. I want them still to look epic, but there has to be compromises. I want to be able to break it down and store it. It's nice if you could put it together in a slightly different way, but I'll be honest, I'm not too bothered, about that. There'll be plenty of movable bits on the table for to change things up a bit. Do you want to see some of the other bits that I've I'm working on? Well,
come on round. Well, here, we'll do the big loop around to here.
Yeah.
So come on round. Okay, or not.
So,
you'll need to grab this.
Yeah. So obviously then, the big thing in the middle. We had talked about adding a palace kind of a thing to it. So I've started the process of that. So it's a more traditional looking palace, and then I kit bashed these towers together. So originally that palace would have been like that, which is nice, but it's not sci-fi. Do you know what I mean? And whenever you move into things like this, you do start to move into the realms of making things ostentatious, really overblown. So I printed out these, kit bashed them together to really take the tower to make it a real centerpiece to the table.
It doesn't have to make as much architectural sense because it's a fantasy world.
Yes. And it's all about having focal points on the table that really just draw your eyes in. And I'm keeping that pretty modular, that if I want to scale it back a bit, I can. It's just, a lot of this stuff you won't know until you start to do your final layout. I then crafted these in Tinkercad using some bits and bobs. We'll put the links to the files or to the creators in the show notes. But I knocked these together in Tinkercad. The top surfaces didn't print correctly. But this is, my philosophy on failed 3D prints.
Bootstrap.
Yes. If look, before we did all this 3D printing, we were making things from scratch anyway. So this saves me 90% of the work.
Yeah, you've got your structure.
Yeah. So even though they didn't print correctly, I'm not going to waste the filament. I'm not going to waste the time. I'm going to use them as a starting point and then work it out. So this might actually end up being greenery that you walk up onto a nice, like a garden almost.
You also have the option of using some of the Green Stuff World rolling pins because they have some nice textures you could roll out and
possibly
and then green them in.
Yeah, possibly.
So maybe more abandoned.
So there's maybe a little, like some little pathways through, and then greenery to either side. I also have these cute little bridges. So, I could do a little kind of like a water feature kind of a thing, or
a little sand garden.
I have these nice moon gates. It might be kind of nice. So, lots of little jobbies that I've been adding in there. Other than that, the other thing was I printed an extra couple of these because I like these as entry points into the actual compound, I suppose is what I'm going to call it. And then finally, I wanted to extend the table. And I had these visions of, you will have seen it maybe on Top Gear, or you'll see it maybe in a James Bond. In the Japanese or those Far Eastern, there's islands, and there's almost like little floating villages.
Hang on. You want to do something like the Florida Keys, where it's just walkways to those little areas?
Yes, but a more Eastern version of it.
Yeah.
So I utilized these wee jobbies, and I printed them, but I installed the bases upside down so that they would go in. So what I was thinking is a fishing village starting on the land and then working its way out just to break things up a little bit. So maybe that kind of a thing. It's again, it kind of depends. I don't know. It's some of this stuff you just have a go at it till you see how it's going to work. But I do like the idea of those kind of like tall little mini islands. I'm pretty sure I saw them on James Bond. I definitely saw it on Top Gear one time, and a little tall mini islands with a little smattering of a village.
Oh, was this the seaman?
Yeah, it could have been. It could have been that one. Yeah,
on a big jet boat.
With the walkways and stuff like that between them. So
yeah, maybe. I mean, it's always an option.
Well, it's like little talking points. It's a unique feature to the table. I can talk about the fishing village, the palace, the comm station. So
well, it's really, you're trying to generate those talking locations where something cool happens in your game and you can key it to a location. Yes,
that's certainly something we've learned over the years is, if you can create focal points on a table that are easy referenced, it helps flow the narrative whenever you're playing a game, because you can say to your opponent, there's an objective in the fishing village, we got to go and I got to go and deal with that.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the only concern I have for these is going to be scaling, because you're working at a scale where a guy is pretty small. These could get oversized a little easily, so it's just something to keep an eye on. But again, you're wanting more of the flavor and the location, so I understand that.
I've been working on the scaling, so not all of that stuff is 28mm stuff scaled down. But there has to be. Look, if I scaled it all down to like 30% or something, it starts to become so small as to be. It loses its structural integrity a little bit,
but also its relevance whenever you're trying to play through it.
Yeah, so I have overscaled a little bit here and there, primarily just to keep it epic. Do you know what I mean? It's this heroic scaling your terrain at the end of the day. I'm becoming less and less concerned with scale these days, because the scale of the buildings doesn't really matter. The buildings are there to add flavor, and they're there to establish the footprint through which you play.
Yeah, so it's representation, not recreation.
Exactly. So like this is not a scale model by any sense. However, everything is close enough for it not to matter. And everything is just about right for it to retain some structural integrity, which means I can pull it in and out of a cupboard or whatever at the end of the day. So some stuff, it might be oversized, but honestly, when you're playing, I don't think you'll notice at all.
No, that's fair. And again, if it's something that's more of a flavor piece and offshoot, having that like little zoomed in sort of component to it might just give that bit of extra flavor.
Right.
Now,
what do you see? Let me bring a landing craft in. Okay. Right. So, like that's not a million miles away.
Yeah, well, here you can use this one pretty easily.
Again, it's not a million miles away. It's like you're talking fractions now in terms of a scale difference.
No, that's fair.
So.
Now, as for your actual building components, I do agree with what you're saying with doing it as like preset sections.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't matter which section you're putting into the location, it's all the same sort of stuff, just linking in to a main system.
That's what I hope. The question is how that works out. And that is what I'll work on today. And then either I'll bring an update or you'll find out next time.
Fair enough. We'll catch you later. Okay, folks. So seeing as we've updated you on a Warren's table, I figured it might be wise to give you a quick update on where I've got to with the crown table. So if we have a look, you can see I've done what we talked about. I have taken and cut down the mats so that I can actually lay out where my rivers are and where our different sections are going to be. So it's a bit more visual now. We've also got a test print for our raised areas done. It was a little bit finicky working out the actual measurements. And as you can see, our river is actually going to be a little bit narrower than I thought because of the extra width that's being added by these. But I don't think that should be a huge issue because now that these are cut up, I can just slide them about a little bit and then we'll actually be able to just get it sitting just the way we want it. The other thing I've done is these, you may notice. So what these are some footprints for different things that I want to put in. So these are for like buildings. So I want to do like a big palace piece. I want to do some like buildings which are for, office buildings, things like that. This I'm hopefully going to make into a water feature. So like, big fountain out in front of the palace, make it a little ostentatious. No movement on the bridges just yet, but that falls into Warren's hands. Now, the reason I'm doing this and trying to plan my stuff out this time is because whenever I built this table, it was literally the first time I had laid my hands on the kits and I was just having to play about with them. So all of these building types and shapes, there was zero planning that went into these. It was just where my dandelion mind decided to take me with it. But this time, because we're being a bit more structured on this table, I figured I might be wise to actually lay out some footprints of building shapes that I kind of like. So all I did was I took and measured some of these and matched the squares and then made 3 or 4 different types of like template that I could then quickly tape together. The next big step for me is this. The grunt work. I am going to have a lot of clipping and a lot of cleaning to do on this. And now I have a mess to clean up as well because I'm an idiot. But anyway, I'll let you guys get back to the studio and I will tidy this up and push on with the build.
There you go. The table's looking absolutely cracking. Someday it may be painted. Then we'll probably have to look at doing armies to put on it as well.
That's true.
But until that time, they may continue their merry way with TerrainFest. And I hope you are at home as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll be checking in the new year.
We will. Yeah,
I know a few people are definitely working on stuff anyway, including something for the multi-award winning Moonstone. In fact, I've seen two projects for the multi-award winning Moonstone.
They're doing anything they can to gain your favour.
Yes. So this is envelopes of cash are better, but I'll take Moonstone as well.
I haven't seen anybody working on anything to do with Rome, though.
No, that's because
someone is actually building Rome.
Are they? Oh, well, there we go. It's done.
For you. It's not done.
I think their project is I can't stop thinking about the Roman Empire, or it's like rebuilding Rome in a day or something. So
no, it's I can't stop thinking about the Roman Empire. It's Nostradamus. Anyway, right, we have a couple of Kickstarters to round out the show.
Yeah.
And we're going to be kicking things off with some DakkaDakka.
Yeah, so DakkaDakka.Store are back on Kickstarter with a brand new project, building on their 3D printable range. This time around, they are bringing us the Stormpride sisters. So if you're looking for some Norse mythology-inspired warriors of the far future, as well as maybe a little bit of fantasy as well, if you want to take it down that route. These are a very nice selection of new female miniatures for you to use as mighty sci-fi shield maidens and beyond. Could be used in all of the popular war games. Make use of them as Adepta Sororitas, perhaps, or Space Wolves in Warhammer 40,000, or use them as whatever army you want to generate in something like Grimdark Future, and obviously go beyond that as well with all the other various sci-fi games that are out there. In typical DakkaDakka style, they have produced a brand new massive base set of miniatures that will give you everything you need to dive into building the Stormpride sisters as an army. You'll be able to get your hands on loads of core troops, so sort of riflemen and elites with heavy weapons and everything else in between. You also get brand new characters and everything like that. The base set, as you can see, is included with pretty much every one of the offerings they do as part of pledges, but then beyond that, you'll be able to tailor it to however you want it to go. What's quite nice about this, and it's something that they've learned from previous projects, is they now offer a couple of different variants in terms of files within this. So when you're diving down to the tabletop, you can actually just get them as pre-assembled files, as you see here, fully pre-supported, just ready to go. Or if you want to do a little bit of kit bashing and converting, you can get the conversion bits and pieces, as you can see there, as part of the build kits. So you can build them alongside their bespoke, unique bodies and heads and all that kind of thing, or you can fit them in alongside 28/32mm miniatures that exist from other games like 40k and all that kind of thing, and you use them to build up your own unique squads using what you might already have in your collection. As I say, loads of the core basics that you'll need for building armies in here. So you got your standard riflemen, you got your heavy weapons and all that kind of thing as well. You have Tribe Warmaster Elza. I see what they did there. The cold never bothered her.
No.
Just so if you're looking, yeah. So if you're looking to build a fun little kill team or something, you've got that option there. My favorite, I think, because I'm a bit of a Age Sigmar head at the moment, is the Blackhide Tribe team. Which I think would be a super cool way for you to build alternative Stormcast Eternals. I think it's a really nice option for you to potentially go down the route of. If you want to try before you buy as well, they do a free STL set. So you can go and get your hands on some different components, print them off and see what you think. And there's also that free Discord miniature that you can see there as well from signing up. So if you want to get that and print that off and give that a try, you've got that as well, which I think is quite nice.
They paint up really well once you get to the painted stuff.
Yeah.
They look real sweet.
One of the nice things about one of the nice things about this range as well, and DakkaDakka in general, is that they have really put the work in over successive campaigns now to make sure that everything that they do is like printed and is test printed endlessly, so that they can give you like the best files for putting through your own home printers. So if you are looking to get into something where you kind of effectively want it to be plug and play in reality with these, this is not a bad campaign to dive into. They've also got a very good community at the moment, as mentioned with the Discord and stuff. So if you want to dive in and maybe play around with some of these files and learn some stuff about 3D printing, they've got a really nice community to help you in that vein. Another thing they've been doing, obviously, you've got loads of add-ons and stretch goals as part of this campaign. In classic fashion, you'll be able to add in new characters and all that kind of thing as the rest of the campaign grows out and expands, but there's also social goals as well. So as they start to hit things like likes on Facebook and Instagram and that kind of thing, they're unlocking additional characters and all that kind of stuff too. But it's a genuinely well-packed, interesting, diverse, pretty unique Kickstarter for those people who want to design really interesting new sci-fi armies. And again, effectively, if you take the backpacks off and you just drop the guns, a lot of the melee weapons and stuff on these would work perfectly well for making just really cool armored shield maiden warriors for sci-fi games and everything else in between as well. But yeah,
what I'm thinking is Shield Wolf miniatures.
Yes,
plastic Valkyries, which are both sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah.
These would probably mix in with those quite nicely.
They would. Yeah. You could always use these as maybe like the heavily armored versions of those compared to the lightly armored troops. So you got a good mix of things, which would be a good way of taking stuff.
Do they have a range that complements this with like male sculpts?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've done like Space Wolves, for want of a better word, and all that kind of thing. Yeah, so I think that was one of the things they did earlier this year, actually, when we looked at them previously. So, yeah, they already do stuff that you could then mix and match the two of these together with, which would be a really nice way of doing things. I mean, I've added like Shield Maiden miniatures into my Space Wolves already, using just a couple of heads from Statuesque and stuff. So it's not something that's beyond the realms of possibility for a lot of people. But yeah, really nice stuff. And as you can see,
Heavy Weapon Squad is going to destroy my brain.
Yes.
Just looking at them, it's like, holy crap! If I ran up against that Heavy Weapon Squad, woo!
Why is that? Is it because there's so many of them?
Yeah,
so much flame, so much death.
You get obliterated with. Oh,
I don't put flamers in a Heavy Weapon Squad. Your Heavy Weapon Squads are filled with multi-meltas
and las cannons
and heavy bolters, depending on what you're coming up against. They don't have las cannons. Not part of the Holy Trinity.
Oh yes,
bolter, melta, flame.
Yes,
that's your Trinity.
In the true sister fashion.
Yep.
Yeah, doing it for themselves.
Yeah, multi-meltas in the back of an emulator, burn them up the battlefield, set fire to somebody's face, and then melt a Land Raider into slag.
Yeah. Oh, I should point out as well, we saw Elza. There is also an Arna, so you've sorted.
The biggest question is, how are they going to include, I don't know what his name is, Olaf?
Olaf the snowman.
The snowman, yes.
Ah.
That's the real question.
Maybe he'll be like a Yeti or something, like a big, like a Wolfen type creature. But
Adam is a Wolfen.
There you go. Dakka, do that.
Big carrot nose.
Yeah, and just call it like Orslaf or something. I don't know.
Yes, you can have that one for free.
There we go.
Right.
Take that one to the bank. Yep.
Yes, as you would do. 18 days left on it, already funded. So if you fancy doing a bit of the old Stormpride Sisters from DakkaDakka, you can do that. Mm-hmm. Primarchs, Sisters of Battle, whatever you want.
Yeah. Or not, just map onto whatever the hell you want.
Pretty much. Yeah. Do whatever you like. Yeah.
It's a brave new world. Speaking of new, Warforge up stuff.
Yeah, so the folks behind SAS Rogue Regiment are back with a brand new sort of campaign expansion for their board game. Now, think in your head the old Commando PC computer game,
yes,
or video game. They did it on console as well at some point, I think. That is effectively what SAS Rogue Regiment is, but on the tabletop.
Good trains.
There is trains, yes. So the whole idea behind the game is that you take on the role of an elite squad of SAS troops, going behind enemy lines, doing badass things, sneaking around, avoiding patrol routes by German forces, undertaking stealth-style missions before everything going loud and you have to get out of dodge. While things explode behind you, cool guys don't look at explosions, diving into cars, driving away in jeeps, getting into planes, and all that kind of thing. This particular expansion is a new 5-part campaign expansion to the basic board game. And it's based around an actual true life mission that took place behind enemy lines. What you're going to be doing is you drop behind enemy lines to try and stall the Panzer divisions as they were trying to roll towards the front in Normandy. And so you'll be sneaking around doing all kinds of like stealthy stuff, battling aboard a war train packed with troops in like a proper sort of like Hollywood fashion, and then escaping through an enemy airfield where you actually have to get onto the board, get in the planes and zip out before the Germans know what you're doing. This all comes as packaged with a new operator called Frenchy, who comes with loads of explosives, as you'd expect. But then you also get new villains and enemies that you're going to be coming up against as well. So rather than just individual infantry guards walking around and following their paths, there's actually going to be full infantry squads marching around because you're deep behind enemy lines in German territory, alongside of all sorts of other things as well. One of the nice things about the game as a whole is that it really kind of nails that commando style feel where there's a real emphasis on stealth and you have to like really push the sneaking around and avoiding patrol lines, using silent weapons to take down individuals, sneaking up behind them and stabbing them and stopping that alarm from creeping up. Because in the end, you guys are just normal human beings. You're not superheroes. And if things go loud, you have to really get out of there or try and, change the situation. They've actually added in a new mode in this that I'm really interested to see how it works, where normally in SAS Rogue Regiment, stealth isn't enforced because once the alarm hits, effectively the game changes up and the pace changes and you kind of just have to play it slightly differently. but they've actually put in like an enforced stealth style mechanic in this one. So there's a thing where if you actually do hit that wrong level, because things are so dangerous behind enemy lines, you just have to start the scenario again because you failed it. So that's going to be really interesting for people who want to go properly hardcore in the game.
Infiltration.
Yeah, proper infiltration.
I like the way you flip the tokens over.
Yes, it's really. It's me and Justin.
To kill
I think.
People.
Me and Justin looked at this. I think it was me and Justin looked at it at UK Games Expo last year, and we had a chat with the guy who's behind this game, and he was so enthusiastic and like into the game, and he said that they had sold out within the first day of the convention because people were so excited about the game. And that's actually another bonus to taking part in this campaign, is they're actually putting the big like black box back on sale, the black box edition. So if you want to dive in and get your hands on that, you can.
I'm not surprised. I'd have bought this if I'd seen it.
Yeah.
But I never see anything at UK Games Expo.
That's unfortunately the way. But yeah. But yeah, really fun looking game. Really worth diving into if you can. I think if you want to sort of like dive into World War II on the tabletop, you're kind of spoilt for choice nowadays. If you don't want to go down the miniatures route, you obviously have things like Undaunted, which is an absolutely fantastic game. But if you want to really if you really want to nail the commando style vibe, this is definitely a game to go and check out, especially if you've watched things like the new SAS series on BBC and all that kind of thing.
Season 2 is coming out soon, isn't it?
It is coming soon.
Where they actually, are they going to become more sort of recognizable as the SAS in that season?
Possibly. Yeah. We'll see where they go with it. But because it's a good board game Kickstarter and it's been around for a while, you can download the rulebook, have a read for it. I think they even have things like the campaign books and stuff up on there as well, so you can flick through the different missions and see how they play. But yeah, as I say, if you're a World War II fan and you don't necessarily want to paint more miniatures or whatever, make sure to dive in and check out SAS Rogue Regiment, because it's just a big old badass game in a box. So yeah, very good.
Not only can you download the campaign, and as I was talking about Tide of Iron last week, saying that you could download the map pack and effects so that you could do your own scenarios, they have it in there as well. System map editor, so you can make your own missions and have them all printed out so they look like proper campaign missions from the book, rather than just drawing it yourself in the back of your notebook with your biro.
Love it.
Oh, it's got bloody train in it. What more do you want, people?
That is correct.
But they blow this train up, Lloyd, so...
Oh, not if Lloyd's on board.
No. Don't spoil the engine.
What if we Centrinians this? We go down, stop the train, change the track, move the train off the track to where it's safe. Then we stop them going to the front line and the train is safe.
There you go.
And you spend a lot of time running back and forward looking for the big lever for changing the tracks.
That's it. The only
I
thing
must rewatch Centrinians. It was great.
The only thing that can make this game better if there was like an escape to victory sort of a scenario. Then it would be amazeballs.
Would it be though? Would it?
Would be totally.
I doubt that very much.
Pele kicking balls at people?
Pele and Stallone can both jog on. One is terrible at football and the other's terrible at acting.
What? What do you mean? Haven't you seen Rambo First Blood? The bestest Christmas movie?
Yeah, it is the best Christmas movie. I'll give you that. It's right up there with Die Hard. But we're digressing too far away. That is funded. There's 18 days left. No, 13 days left on that one. Sorry. Yeah. So if you want to get involved in the SAS, you can do this thing. We are about to run off for another week. We'll be back again next Friday. But if that's too far away, you can join us for our Cult of Game show on Sunday over at OnTableTop.com, where our cultists get to sit down with us on a Sunday morning, whether they want to or not, and talk about hobby. It's all good, clean family fun.
It is.
With
depending on your family. Yes. Other thing cultists can do is, if they want, they can pop over to OnTabletop and ask us anything. We have a little forum post there, or a little post on the main page where you can open up a form, ask Lloyd why he's not built Rome yet. And we're going to do an Ask Me Anything sort of Q&A over the Christmas period. So if there's anything you've got a burning desire to know, like why, just why, okay, then, go ahead. Ask us those questions and we'll try and answer them.
Yeah.
I think think we've only got 3 questions so far about Rome and its state of build.
Yeah. And I think there's like at least a handful of actual sensible questions.
Proper sensible questions, yeah.
I don't see what the point in asking about Rome is. I've given that answer definitively.
That eventually.
There's even a cover which shows just how much Lloyd hates Rome because it's burning behind him. So,
well, we'll say peer pressure works, folks. So
not on me because I don't give a shoot.
Right. That's us done. We'll see you again next week. Until then, have a great week of gaming. Bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.